Welcome to Global Insider Talks and to this very exciting interview with one of the most inspiring and impressive people I've ever met. He's a visionary, a board director, an advisor, a presidential appointee, a lawyer, Notre Dame grad, and an all-around good human being who is dedicating his life truly to making the world more inclusive, connected, and better for future generations. I'm Jeff Smith, COO of Factum Global, and today I have the great pleasure of introducing you to Cordell Carter, Aspen Institute executive and founder of the Festival of the Diaspora, an incredible annual convening of leaders across the Americas and Eastern Europe. And this is the topic we'll discuss today. Cordell, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks so much for taking the time, Cordell.
Oh,
So by way of introduction, Cordell, tell us a little bit about the Festival of the Diaspora, how it works, its mission, and if you would, take us on the ground to this.
Sure. So to really understand where the festival comes from, I should note the following. I'm the son of a Southern Pentecostal preacher. And as a kid in Southern Virginia in the 80s, we would have something called tent revivals. And so during the day, you would have vacation Bible school because they didn't let us spend any time not doing something that wasn't religious, right? For fear that we would go to the dark side. And then you would have in the evenings these amazing musical and oratorical events called the tent revival. And people literally, it's like a family reunion. People you would only see at tent revivals would come. And though I was a child, I knew that this was different. It felt different. The music sounded different. The emotional intensity was different. They would do confession services. And even I knew that was borderline like, whoa, I'm so sorry for sleeping with your husband. I'm like, whoa, I think I know who they're talking about. So as a kid, you can imagine watching this. So fast forward all these years later, I'm traveling around the world on behalf of the Aspen Institute Socrates program, convening leaders all over. I find myself in Puerto Rico in November of 2019, about to deliver a seminar called the American Values Seminar. I'm very proud of this work, something I personally created, and very additive, I learned later, to my path towards belonging and inclusion. And I noticed there was a group of participants that were not feeling the seminar at all. And I was trying to understand what was going on. And so at the break, they said, hey, can we talk to you? I said, absolutely. And they said, I don't think you understand what's really going on here in Puerto Rico. I said, well, you have dinner plans? Let's talk. Now, I would love to learn more. And so they invited more friends. And we went to dinner that November night in Puerto Rico, and they educated me on American empire. And then they asked me a question that I didn't have a good answer to. They said, in North America, you have everything you could possibly imagine. But where's your soul? Where's your joy? You guys are angry and on pills all the time. What's wrong with you people? And I just had to sit and think about that, because I'm looking at joy. I'm hearing it. I'm feeling it all over San Juan. And I'm like, you're right. We have a soulless existence, and what's needed when the spirit is empty, a revival.
Right.
And so what the prescription was, as we're sitting and amening each other inside this restaurant in Puerto Rico, is that we need a hemispheric revival, where we're bringing North Americans down to the Caribbean and Latin America to see what joy, joyful living, a joyful existence looks like. So we can combine North American capital with Latin and Caribbean joy. I think amazing things could happen. And so we said, all right, we're going to do this Festival of Diaspora. COVID hits, okay? The joy dissipates.
Delay, exactly.
But 2 years later, February 22nd, 2022, 2022, we were able to launch the first Festival of Diaspora in Puerto Rico. So it aims to do three things. One is to connect us across the 35 different borders in the Americas. There's some cultural differences, historical, like we have different national narratives. Some are emerging democracies, some are mature democracies, some aren't democracies at all. And so there's a lot that we can share and learn from each other. The second piece is celebration, celebrating our shared history, our connection, also what I call the other AI, and that's ancestral intelligence. Our ancestors have done nothing to shame us. If anything, they are the jet fuel that powers our present day. And so by living well, living joyful, we are honoring them, okay? And lastly is to collaborate. let's do something for people right now. And this is where North American capital comes into play. We don't need to go to a foundation and ask for permission to do something great for people. We can decide to do it on site. I'll give you a perfect example. The second festival Diaspora took place in Cartagena, Colombia.
Right.
This was in March of this past year. And we happen to have met Pharrell Williams, Black Ambition, his nonprofit, and Expecting Advisory, my family business, sponsored a pitch competition. And the pitch competition were only for Colombian women and from certain states that we know were underestimated, underserved by venture capital, private equity, the like. And we met 50 amazing women, entrepreneurs from all over Colombia. We literally had 3 weeks to do the whole national competition, which we did. We got 10 finalists out of that. And then 10 semifinalists and then 5 finalists. All 10 came to the festival.
Wow.
And so we were able to spend 4 days with them, learning from them, hearing from them, and seeing their products, understanding their story.
What kind of business owners were they, and how did you reach them?
Yeah, so they were into textiles.
Okay.
On the Pacific coast, they were doing something called viche, Viche. It is an old, almost like moonshine, I guess, the equivalent. It's a homemade liqueur that the slaves would create. Okay, so it is still technically illegal in Colombia to make this, just like it's illegal in the US to drink and to sell moonshine. But you can purchase it. There's a special designation for cultural heritage that allows you to sell it commercially. And so we met several, like 3 or 4 of those vendors. Some are doing so well that they're employing their entire village.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And so
what's the goal? Sorry to interrupt you. What's the goal of bringing in others, say from the US and other parts of, I hate to say, more developed Americas, and connecting them with the indigenous business owners or the local businesses?
Bilateral or bi-directional mentorship. The folks in these developing countries who are employing entire villages while holding down engineering jobs in the bigger cities and paying a bribe to the gang leaders that lead the villages, by the way. Right. So they're balancing a lot. They know more about resilience and ingenuity than we could ever imagine. But also annual revenues for some of the most successful businesses are less than 25,000 US. Okay. Wow. Whereas we have people that will spend that in a weekend in Colombia. Right. On boat trips. Okay. Right. So we got those same people in the room to listen to each other's stories. And I want you to know that audience of 175 conference attendees raised $30,000 in 30 minutes for them.
Wow.
Okay.
In 30 minutes. And I would venture to guess that the mentorship goes both ways.
Absolutely. Bi-directional. I think that's the way forward, because there's so much to learn from each other. We can't make the assumption that we have all the answers here in North America. We have a lot of answers. We certainly have a robust market, but we also fail a lot. Venture capital funding, fails 98% of the time. That's not a natural occurrence. Nothing fails that often and still gets to live, right? So we have to deal with our inherent biases and why we fund the way we fund. Why are we funding the same type of people? Now, the margins are better in Latin America. You're not going to see these gigantic returns of, 80% on your dollar, but you will see consistent 20% every year, smaller scale, but every year. And so if we can get folks like yourself and myself to make equity investments in these businesses that are pulling between $10,000 and $25,000 US a year, we could have massive impact. Yeah. And so for this pitch competition, we were able to, the front runner, she got her entire year revenue in one check.
Wow. Wow, incredible. So if I'm watching this interview and I want to get involved, I want to make an investment, is the easiest way to do that come to the next festival, which, by the way,
or online next year in Rio de Janeiro, February 22nd to 25th.
Yeah.
Or you can donate directly through our website. Absolutely. Okay. But we've partnered with a group called Casa Innovation in Medellin, led by a woman named Maria Velasquez, who's Colombian but was raised in Philadelphia area. And her mission is to reach women entrepreneurs all over Latin America. She's focusing on Colombia, is women entrepreneurs, LGBTQTI community, recent migrants, folks that have traditionally are left out of the innovation ecosystem in Latin America. Folks are not from the big cities, by the way, because if you're not in Medellin or Bogota, you're going to miss a lot of this.
Yeah.
It's not where you are. And so how can we bring that to them? And so by the conference moving around every year, we're essentially kind of being Johnny Appleseed and doing the pitch and generating activity and energy and partnering with local people. So our leave behind is a belief and proof that it can be done by people you don't expect in cities you don't expect.
So that's the leave behind question is my follow-up here. So now you look back at Puerto Rico and look back at Cartagena, and I know Cartagena was just in March and we're in August of 23 right now. What have those leave behinds been, and what are you seeing? Is it I would venture to guess it's not a one and done, right? You're probably seeing something, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so in Puerto Rico, our very first one, and by the way, it was the same day, we launched the same day that Russia launched their attack on
Oh,
Ukraine.
wow.
So it will live in infamy. We were still trying to figure out our way, but there's a transformation story for every festival. And the very first one, I happen to know 4 different Muslim American women who did not know each other. They only knew me in common. And so at some point in the festival, I grabbed the hands of all 4 and I said, you all have to be a part of each other's life. You all are amazing. And I just walked away. Okay, that was on day 1.
Okay.
By day 4, they're already plotting out how they're going to combine forces to do a website that's going to really challenge the notion of what it means to be a modern Muslim American woman. That website is now a podcast that was featured at South by Southwest. So I'm speaking on something and they're speaking on their podcast. I'm like, it's already up and going. I'm sorry, I missed that. They're like, yeah, like we're helping each other get promoted. We're helping each other deal with our more traditional mother-in-laws that are not comfortable with who we are. We're contending with issues of motherhood in a country that's not as observant as the one that we've come out of. So really complex issues, but issues that any immigrant can relate to.
Right.
And it's called Not Your Typical Aunties. That's the name of the podcast. So please check it out.
Just think about the magnifier effect that the festival is having, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was a couple of years ago, and now this business and this podcast is up and running and is reaching, who knows how many people in the world.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So let me play the skeptical North American, or I'll just say American. What would you say to folks who believe maybe the goals of the festival are a little too lofty and how can you ensure that real change is actually happening as a result of these festivals?
Well, we are a coalition of the willing, so no one is forced to come. We're going to beautiful places to entice you to be there. But our promise to everyone is that there are people at this event that can be trampolines for whatever it is you're trying to do, and you for them. And so come and experience it with us. And I can guarantee you, unless you are deaf and mute, that you're going to have an incredible transformational experience. This is the secular tent revival. That's what this is, the secular tent revival, which is meant to refresh and give you enough energy to contend with all the things you have to contend with on your way and your path towards impact, whatever that is for you.
Now, when I first learned of the festival, we first met a while ago, I thought immediately of the World Economic Forum in Davos. And you have the top, financiers, government officials, they've all been, worked for a very, very long time in their areas, and they convene and they decide, sort of the future of the world, so to speak, when it comes to business and finance. Is that, how does this festival compare or contrast to World Economic Forum?
It contrasts in that it's intentionally meant to be affordable. It's intentionally like inclusion and belonging is top of mind as part of the design. We have folks that are ready for the big stage, the Davos stage, they've been on it, but they also are kind of rooted in what I call more grassroots activities. And so this is more of a unique personal experience for folks. We have a lot of allusions towards historical context. We have a lot of local people talking about their issues. And what I'm finding in the places we're visiting, a lot of people that are local to wherever we're going have problems accessing stages because of the hierarchy in their countries.
Sure.
So by this interloper, the festival coming in, we don't care or acknowledge any of your hierarchy. Yes, we will invite your president to do the opening address, but I don't care if you're not in the same party as that person. if you know something on this topic, I'm going to ask you to be on the stage right there with us. We're going to have translation devices right there with. So it's much more attainable to people. This isn't like, $10,000 for a weekend in Aspen. That's not what this is
Right,
all.
exactly. Well, and
But we
I'd like
have,
to, yeah, I'd like to impress on the audience that, this is high level, but locally available, I guess is the way that I would say it. You have invited, and they've spoken, presidents of countries. You have executives from companies of the likes
Fortune
of
500s, absolutely.
Google and other Fortune 100
Meta,
companies. And you have Pharrell Williams and other artists. So industries, folks are represented across all industries and government. And it's really a fascinating collection of brains that come together with locals within the community in which the festival is being hosted. It really is incredible. So we're short on time here, so I want to get to my last two questions. Whether our viewer here is a small business owner or an executive at a large Fortune 100 company, what are some of the messages that you have for them? Like, what are the top 2 or 3 messages you might want to convey here?
Access. This is for both the small business owner who wants more eyeballs and potential market share for their product, as well as for the executive of a large company that is selling across multiple economic markets. You're going to get a large dose of all of that in one place in one fell swoop, because you have representatives from all of the Americas that are there. Some are decision makers, some are influencers, some just have to be consumers that have the ability to ask and request for your product at their store, at their company, if you're doing professional services, or in their government if they are serving. The other one is connection. This idea that we are rooted somewhere, that we are forging this broader sense of what it means to be from the Americas, and it was getting rid of our hyphen, if you will. And so these are rare moments of ideological and psychological safety that we take full advantage of. And the last piece is beauty. We intentionally pick beautiful places because we believe that location is text. And so you're reading your environment, you're feeling your environment. So I want you to be transported to some place where transformation can actually happen. And the only way that happens is if we got you in the right spot with the right people.
That's fantastic. So access, connection, and beauty. And Cordell, if someone wants to learn more about the festival, where do they go?
Festivalofthediaspora.org.
Awesome. Cordell, you are a rock star. Thank you for all that you do. We're going to leave it here today. We are most grateful to you for your time, and we hope that this interview has left our viewers feeling that the world is getting a little bit more connected day by day through the festival. I invite our viewers to visit Factum Global for more information about our Global Insider Talk series and more about our services. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.